And when Brother Branham began to have a contact with my husband, that brought me into contact with him as well. And he would come up north to go hunting at various times. And one time in the spring, he had come up and was hunting with my husband. And they had gotten a bear on one hunt, and they were coming back to Dawson Creek. And I was staying with my sister, and our girls were young. I think Linda was about 9 or 10, the oldest girl. And we were waiting for them to come. And they arrived and dropped the bear hide off at my sister's house. And then as we stood just at the side of the street, the girls began to sing for him. And they could sing some of the native Canadian Indian songs. So I believe they sang a couple of songs in the native Indian language. And I think he took off his hat. He said, now we've had the song service, and now we'll take up the offering. And he reached in his pocket and put a few coins in there and gave them to the girls. And he said, you know, now you can buy yourself some ice cream or chocolate bars or something. We've had the song service. Now here's the offering. And they remember that very clearly. Not long after that, we were living in southern British Columbia in Victoria. We were getting ready for Brother Branham to come to Port Alberni and Victoria for meetings. And by this time, my husband was not welcome in the undenominational churches. So as we prepared for the meetings, we were doing it by ourselves. All the advertising, all the preparation of whatever building we were going to have. And just before that, my father, who was about 64 years old, had a very severe heart attack in Dawson Creek. And the main artery of his heart ruptured out, and his doctor called my husband and said, I think you'd better send Ruth up. He's not going to live through this. And so I went up to Dawson Creek. It's about 1,000 kilometers, I'd say. And I was allowed to stand by his bed for 10 minutes a day, not speak to him, but just stand there. And I was there for a few days. Then I had to go back to Victoria because of the preparation for the meetings, and I was terribly burdened for him, heavy-hearted. And then we began to prepare for the meetings, and besides bearing the load of the advertising, the building, and all those things, my heart was so heavy. I wanted, while we waited for Brother Branham to come, and he came, and he was in a motel, and I wanted so desperately to speak to him, ask him, tell him about my father, ask him if he would pray. But there was no opportunity. He was waiting on God in the motel, and then he'd come to the meeting, and I was playing the piano, and then he'd leave the platform and go back to the motel, and it was just every day like that. And I was just longing. And then we went to Victoria and carried on with the meetings there, and there was no help from anyone, none of the churches. In fact, for Victoria, the Anglican Church of Canada gave us one of their organists who came forward and played the organ for the meetings, if you can imagine. Not even a Christian or a believer. She came forward to play the organ. And so then after those meetings were over, and we were at the motel outside, and Brother Branham was talking to my husband and just saying the parting words, "It's been wonderful to be here. We're thankful for what the Lord has done, and maybe we'll see you again." And they were just saying a few parting words. I was standing about this far to there, quietly, just under the lights of the motel. And Brother Branham turned to me and said, "By the way, Sister Biskal, your father will be all right." And there was